What's up, my grimlets? Morning, YouTube. Today we're going to be doing a video about brake lines. Not overly complicated, but they can be kind of frustrating. So I have already come through in the essence of time. I really got to get cranking on this, and I have taken out the old brake lines. Now I'm going to go over some stuff to make it life easier for you. If you're swapping to brand new stuff, it makes life a lot easier. If you're having to reuse or remake lines, that's a totally different thing. I'm not going to cover that in this video because that sucks, but you'll get the gist of this. So the kit that we ordered came with a new stainless piece for here. This line is still solid and good, and it also takes the curly cues out, which these are to help build pressure and regulate pressure. So I'm not going to be using it. I'm just going to use this factory style one that's in here that's still in good shape. So that thing comes down to right here, and this is where your first junction is at. Now the kit came with the new fitting to connect the two. This is actually the new line here. So I have already ran this new line all the way through the frame rail. Essentially they're pre-bent. They have bends in them. Being stainless, you're still gonna have to move them around and whatnot to get them exactly where they are, but the main bend portions are in there. With this stuff, you just have to be careful. You can bend it, but you don't want to kink it, if that makes any sense. So you don't want to just grab it and hulk it into a horseshoe. Already removed the rear brake lines. New hose installed with the fittings hooked into the hose. They go over to each wheel cylinder on the back. So those we will get buttoned up today as well. But what I want to show you guys is basic brake line stuff. So this here is that new piece, right? Comes pre-flared with the fittings already on it. Now when you were taking old stuff off, this is the rear brake line with the hose assembled, right? So over time, especially with these steel lines, because they're a lot stiffer, when you have to unbolt these from each other, or from, in this case, like a hub, what tends to happen is you will start turning this, and it will actually just start bending the hose until it crimps it and breaks it all off. So easiest thing to do if you're replacing with new is just take a Sawzall, cut-off wheel, something like that, cut the line itself, and then you can actually get to this with a ratchet and take it off that way. If not, and I'm sure those of you out there know, you have to use line wrenches. So these are designed so that you can slide this over the line and then back it up to that bolt and try to turn it. Because these are not closed off, they like to round crap off because they don't have a true bite on there, so they'll start to slip. It's a pain in the butt. If you have to do it that way, what I recommend is spraying it down with PB Blaster, Zep, whatever kind of lubricant you like to use, WD-40. Let it sit, heat it up with a torch, spray it again. Watch out for the chemical spray that comes off of that. All the steam and stuff, you don't really want to breathe that in. As you can see, I already tried doing that this morning, and that's why I went ahead and just started cutting stuff, and then used a socket and a ratchet to pull those out. So this is the piece we're not going to use. I am going to save it because you never know, down the line it might need to replace, and I already have it. So that's the basics of getting these apart. Like this here, you can see how rusted and crusted this stuff is, and eventually it'll just blow out. So the benefit of going to the stainless is it's not going to rust like this, and it's not going to bubble, it's not going to pop. When you put pressure on it, it's not going to blow out because it's soft in a spot. So that is why we are upgrading to stainless. Should never have to replace these things again. So with that said, let's get in here and figure out where I'm going to put you guys so that you can see this. So also, you can see that this doesn't exactly line up straight, and you want this to go straight because of the fitting. But like I said, with the stainless, you can bend it. So let's get in here and let's go to work. So I don't have the other side bolted down, so I can literally just line this up where I need it to be instead of having to bend it. But you want to make sure that it's centered because it does have a flare, and I am going to need both hands. So let me figure out how I'm going to set you guys up to see this. Hopefully you guys can somewhat see what is going on here. I'm not sure if you can or not because I can't really tell. So if not, that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. We're gonna get in here, get this lined up, get it started by hand. Always want to start bolts by hand so that you make sure you're not cross threading stuff. And then we will grab our wrenches. That's right, I said wrench. Is a pain in the butt because you're also dealing with limited space here. So essentially you're holding that center section with one wrench and trying to get the line wrench on the other side and hoping that you have enough room to move it, which is not the case. So, sometimes you just have to figure this crap out, right? That is far too big. What the heck? Now I have already tightened this into the other end, which is helpful because when you're tightening this way against that, it's gonna help to hold it in place. And you sometimes can get by without holding that middle. Now, that is not always the case. Sometimes you don't want to spin, and like I said earlier, if it starts spinning, it can actually bend that line. So we're going to keep a close eye on it. Alright. do not have to muscle that thing on there. But you do want it tight, because we're going to have to come through when we go to bleed the lines and make sure, obviously, that it's not leaking. But that is, oh dang, the gist of that. So that is this guy hooked to the full length center section line that comes back here. So now these just bolt into the wheel cylinder in the back. Again, line it up straight, start it by hand. Sometimes these things suck, because if they're not perfectly straight in there, or if the line is protruding farther than that bolt, it will hinder you from getting this thing to start. And you do have to fight with this stuff sometimes. Give it a slight little bend. Try to get it perfectly straight. And it still doesn't want to start, so yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. You just got to keep messing with it without messing the threads up. That is the key. 'Cause then you're going to be chasing threads, stripping stuff out. And that makes your day suck even more. There we go. It just needed a little bend up. Alright. Now you grab your line wrench. While you're at it, lube down your bleeders, because you're going to have to make sure these open when you go to start bleeding the brakes. So as you can see, that slides over that line and then goes on top of the nut, and then you just got to back it off and get it positioned again and just keep on going. Until you get this thing fully seated in here. And the end of that line itself is flared and it meets a junction, so once it's kind of smashed in there, it is good to go. So now we'll come over here, repeat the process on the other side. I have no clue how good this is actually showing you guys, if the camera's pointed in the right spot or not. But that's the best I can do. I don't have a cameraman here with me. The big man is at school, so And again, you're just gonna have to mess with it, bend it. And now we have one side already bolted up. So you can do these outside portions before you mess with bolting it to the brake hose block, but I chose to do it this way. Probably not the smartest, but because it's just wanting to pull it back that way. It would probably honestly also be easier if I didn't have these bigger wheels on here, but I'm not jacking this thing back up just to do this, so. Like I said, I'm trying to get this thing on the road. Although my son won't be driving it for a while regardless, because I still have to teach him how to drive a stick. He doesn't know how to drive a stick, so I'm going to be driving this thing for a while. Make sure there's no kinks in the system, everything's going right, no issues, before I just hand it over to him. And I'll be teaching him how to drive it in the meantime. I think that's a foundational learning thing that most people nowadays will never ever experience or know. But if you can drive a stick, you can pretty much drive anything. So it's a lost talent. Manufacturers are getting away from them, unless you're going into some of the more high-end stuff. But even then, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, all that, they use sequential transmissions with paddle shifters anymore. They don't use actual sticks, so that's a totally different thing altogether. Okay, so that is done. Now, the rear end has these slots that this slides into. This just bends back over. I can't do it with my finger. So there's one underneath this perch. So we'll attempt to get that back under there. If not, we'll just rely on this one. Same on this side. We'll bend this down, get it back in there. And then these are the factory retainers. So essentially this will swivel up. We'll get this under here. Swivel it back over the line, bolt it back down, it'll hold it in place. I left all of those. We can use the factory mounting spots to get this all back in here so it's not hanging around, dangling everywhere. And then your post here will bolt to your brake line. And then that is the completion of swapping out these brake lines. I will get that done. It's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. It bolts together. I'll go ahead and get this all hooked back in. But as of right now, besides that one connection, our rear brake lines are done. So what that means is in the next video, I have to drop the gas tank to get all the nasty gas out of here, because this truck has not ran since 2000 and K1500, and the gas that is in there is disgusting. Take a look at the tank, see if it's all jacked, rusted and crap. But then I'll be running new brake line or fuel hose. I'm gonna have a video that I'm gonna be making today showing you guys how to adjust your rockers to get your push rods all lined back up. Show you how to set your valve timing and your lash. I'm gonna do it the way Derek from Roadkill and all that does it. Roadworthy Rescues, sorry. How he does it, it's not the same way old timers used to do it, but it makes total sense on how it works. So I'll go through, I'm gonna make a video on that today so we can get all of our rockers tightened back down so that we have them set with the correct preload and lash on those, as far as giving enough clearance for your push rods and stuff. So that is another video I'll be making. This is going to be a short one. I do want to say, I don't know what is wrong with people anymore. As I told you guys, I was taking Big Man out to go for shotgun season this weekend, and I honestly think that it may have ruined some of his drive and passion for hunting in general. If you're watching this and you are a hunter, whether you agree with me or not, I don't care. Shotgun / rifle season here in Illinois tends to bring out some of the worst types of hunters that you can imagine. You know, we do our due diligence. We hunt an hour and a half away. We leave our house at 3:30 in the morning to get in the woods, to get set up, and knowing the Orange Army is there. Now, granted, this is a spot where when I archery hunt, there may be 1-2 other people there. When shotgun rifle season comes around, there's like 30 people there, and I get it. Just like everybody else, you know, we don't have access to private land. We don't have the money to buy private land, so you're limited on where you can go. These people only hunt during that season. But you would think they would know some of the unspoken ethics of hunting, or common decency, let's just put it that way. So we get there Friday morning, we get set up in our spot, perfect. Rains and rains and rains and rains, and it's cold, so that kind of ruined our day. We got soaked to the bone, didn't stay all day. Now come around Saturday, obviously the fair weather hunters didn't go Friday, so it wasn't as crowded. Saturday morning, we had people chasing us through the woods trying to get to the spot we had set up in the day before, literally chasing us. So we adapt, we move, we go to another spot. Everyone gets settled in. Legal shooting time is a half an hour before sunrise. Sunrise was at 6:47. By the time we found our new spot where we were gonna set up, we got all set up, and it was 5:50 or so. So at 6:17 is legal light. The woods settle down. Everyone's where they're gonna be. Sunrise comes, and then about 7 o'clock in the morning, after everyone's already been out here, set up, ready to go, here comes this guy flying through the woods on a four-wheeler, just driving past everyone who's been set up for, you know, an hour plus, and just, you know, pretty much scares everything out that's been moving. Also, he could go to an edge of a field and literally just lean against a four-wheeler. Proceeds to sit there for 2 whole hours and then jump right back on his four-wheeler and leave. So we get the assist I'll give him that. We get the assist. We rattled in a buck for the dude who was 40 yards in front of us that we didn't even know was there, and he smoked that thing. Congrats to him. Scared the crap out of us. Had no clue it was even there. Because we ground hunt. We make our own blinds. You know, use bushes. We bring some blind material. We make our own ground blinds. We don't hunt in the trees. There's not a lot of good places to tree hunt where we're at. So we move again, and we get set up, and it's 11:30, 11:45, and we're hunting on essentially a trail coming out of the woods on the edge of a field. A really nice fresh scrape that's about 20 yards from us that we found on the way there. And then we can see all the way down the edge of the field along the trees. And then this guy has, for whatever reason, still left all the corn up. So this whole field's full of corn. But we can see all the way down to the other edge of the field, where there is another little finger of trees and a trail that goes through to the next field over. And we see this group of guys. Clear as day. We're all wearing orange. Clear as day. You can see these guys. We watched them from noon on. Sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up. About 1 o'clock, they're like looking down at us, you know, and they can't really see nothing but our heads because we've made this ground blind. And I looked at my son, and I said, it's like they want to come over here, you know. I said, it's only 1 o'clock. If they come down here, walk past, no big deal. We plan on sitting all day. Well, they just keep standing up, poking around, and then, mind you, sunset was at 4:30 or so. These 4 dudes waited until 3:30 to get up, walk straight down the entire tree line, get 80% of the way to us, talking extremely loudly, just in general knowing that we were there being rude. And then the 2 older gentlemen stop and are like, oh crap, they're in a ground blind, and stand there and just continue to talk. Well, the 2 younger men in the group, these are not kids, men, walk directly in front of us and then go on down the tree line towards where we know there's already a guy in a tree stand. So not only are they disrupting us, they're disrupting another guy that they can see from the other side of the field because he's in a tree stand wearing all orange. These are the kind of people who ruin hunting, especially for younger people like my son. Those 2 older gentlemen walked back down to the other end of the field where they had been sitting for hours and just sat back down in some chairs. Well, my son got fed up, and we packed up our blind, we packed up all our stuff, and we walked right past them 2 old guys who were giving us the evil eye for ruining their hunt. And come yesterday, he didn't even want to go back. So, if you are a hunter, please have some common decency. I get it, it's public land, you're free to do whatever you want. I cannot, you know, yell at these dudes. I cannot be mad at these dudes. I can be aggravated because what they did was intentional. It's one thing to accidentally walk up on someone. It's another to straight stare at a person for 2-3 hours and then interrupt their hunt. Mind you, they could have literally walked from the side of the field they were on all the way around the perimeter on the other side to get down from us without even having to come near us. But they directly chose to walk at us. So when I say be kind, be cognizant of others, man. Have some sort of moral compass, dude. Like, those guys ruined my son's day. Ruined my son's weekend. That's it for him for the season. He can't do anything else this year unless he decides to go get an archery tag. And it sucks. And it's forcing me to the point where I want to buy some private land, but if you know anything about Illinois, you're not buying it here. So, be nice to people, man, in every aspect of your life. So, I'm going to get cranking back on this thing. I will get this set up again here in a bit and make another video, and we're just going to keep rolling on this thing. Have a great day.